Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Now I'm going to be working on my good friend Matt's BMW F20 1 Series. What are we going to be doing today? So we're going to be swapping out the rear brakes. So we have fresh discs and fresh pads to replace what is on there at the moment. I don't know how well you can see in there, but they are pretty badly worn. I have a good feeling that the pads are only making contact on half of the disc, so yeah, definitely need swapping out. And in this video I'm going to be showing you exactly what you need to do to swap out the rear brake. So we are going to need some pretty basic tools. We're going to need some ratchets and sockets. Good thing to have a wire brush, some brake cleaner, some copper grease, and if you have some cordless tools as well, that's a good thing, just makes things nice and easy. But for starters, you're going to want to get the rear of the car up in the air. So rear jacking point is pretty much the rear differential, and I've just put a jack stand on the side jacking points. Of course, I have a rubber pad just to protect the factory jacking point, and you're going to want to chock the front wheels as well. Right then, let's get cracking. Let's get the rear wheels off. Let's see how stuck the wheel is on the hub. Yep, very stuck. It's a good idea to have a rubber mallet to hand. There we are. Now then. Yeah, these rear discs are not in great shape, are they? Should be all the way to the edge of the disc. Yeah, that's barely even half of the contact area. The pads, tiny bit of life left in them, but they are very low, so of course we're going to be swapping them out as well at the same time. And of course we have a new brake pad wear sensor to go on as well, which is this Bosch unit here. If you're wondering which brand of brakes we've gone with, Ferodo for the discs, TRW for the pads. Good quality brakes, brake discs and pads. Good thing about the Ferodo discs, not only are they coated so they won't rust, but they also come with new hardware as well. So then we'll get the brake pad wear sensor out of the way. Just be able to pull it out of the pad. There we are. As you can see, this one has worn through. That's why it's been triggered. Now what I'm going to do is compress the piston back into the caliper itself. Before we do that, make sure you release the cap off of the brake fluid reservoir. Brake fluid reservoir is literally just underneath this trim piece here. Remove that out of the way and unscrew the cap and just leave it to sit on top. Now I'm going to get a screwdriver between the disc and the pad. I want to have some daylight in between. I'm going to use my pry bar to do the rest of the way. There we go, that's all the way in. Now I can start removing the caliper. So I'll start with the securing clip here. Then I'll take the caps off of the back of the slider bolts. These plastic caps here, and they are an 8mm Allen bolt to release them. There's one, and with both of those slider bolts released, you should be able to lift the caliper away from the bracket, remove the old pads. Remove the slider bolts, so I'll give them a good clean up. And I'm just going to hang the caliper On here, you never want to hang the caliper down off of the brake hose, you end up damaging it. This is the old pads, as you can see. They have not been wearing evenly. This is why I pretty much always swap out discs when I do pads, because if you end up putting a new set of pads on a set of worn discs, they'll end up just them not wearing properly as they should. Next then we need to remove the caliper bracket itself. It should just be held in by two 16mm bolts. Which have been done up way too tight. Right then, with both bolts removed, caliper bracket can come away. And the next thing we can do is remove the disc. So 6mm Allen bit, and these do round off quite easily. So you want to be careful. I'm going to hammer this in. It shouldn't be tight, it should only be about 9 Nm. Let's put the parking brake on. There we go. Is that removed? We should be able to remove the disc. There we are. That's the disc removed. Now we need to give all this a good clean up. Start with the hubs. Parking brake shoes, a good clean up as well. Make sure there's no debris in here. And of course the hubs, give them a good clean. And then I like to apply a small amount of copper grease to the hub, especially round here, just so that the disc doesn't seize to the hub, but also so that the wheel doesn't seize to the hub. Don't need to go crazy, it's a tiny amount. Whoever is in here next will definitely thank me for this. Now then, it's time to get the new disc installed, making sure to line the screw hole up with the screw hole on the hub. Perfect. I'm going to apply a small amount of copper grease to this as well, again to help the future owner. Now I'll put the parking brake back on, and we can torque the screw down to 9 Nm, which is literally just that. Don't have to go crazy. And now what I'm going to do is get the bracket cleaned up. So again, just use a wire brush. Main thing is you want to clean the contact surface for the edge of the brake pads, just so that they slide nice and easily, and also the mating surfaces where the bracket bolts onto the hub, and also where the caliper bolts onto the bracket as well. There we go, the bracket is now ready to be reinstalled. Exact opposite of removal. Just put it in place, install the two 16mm bolts. Now I can get both of those bolts torqued down. There's one. And there's two. Now I'm just going to give the caliper itself a bit of a clean up. Then we can get the pads ready for reinstallation. Just like to apply a very small amount of copper grease just to the very ends. Don't have to go crazy. On these they do have anti-squeal pads, you don't have to put any on the front or back of the pads. It's the tiniest amount along the top. You haven't got to do this, it is optional of course, but I just think it helps things move nicely. There we are. And I'll get the front pad installed into the caliper bracket. There we are. And then the rear pad, of course, that has to be installed into the caliper. Make sure you have it the correct way around. It should go like this. There we are. Now we can get the caliper reinstalled over the disc. Make sure everything is sitting nicely. And I get the slide bolts cleaned up. There we go. You can grease these if you wish. BMW say not to grease them. So because this is not my car, I'm just going to follow BMW's advice of not to grease them. Slot them back into the caliper bracket. And we'll get those two slider bolts torqued down to 30 Newton meters. And there's two. Now we can get the securing clip reinstalled. There we are. Can't forget the caps that sit over the slide bolts as well. Now of course, because we have a wear sensor on this side, we need to replace this as well. So we're just going to follow this back. It goes along the top of this control arm, spirals around the back of the spring, then goes up in here where it will have a connector inside of that junction box. And there we are. That is the new brake pad wear sensor in place. Slotted it into the back of the pad against the piston. It's tucked behind of the brake bleeder nipple. Goes up over here, clips onto the control arm in two places. A couple of white clips at the back, and then tucks up behind the wheel arch liner to that junction box up there. Might have to peel the wheel arch liner back, it's just a 10mm plastic nut holding that in place. You should be able to have full access in there then. And there we go then. That is the rear discs and pads swapped out on this side. What we can do now is get the wheel on and then do the exact same on the other side. And that is this side done as well. As you can see, wheels back on, car back on the ground, and wheel bolts torqued up. Well then, there we go then. That is the rear brake discs and pad swapped out on this BMW F20 1 Series. A couple of things left to do now. I need to reset the brake warning. Obviously the old sensor had triggered, so I need to reset that, and I also need to bed in the brakes as well, but I can do all that off camera. Hopefully you've all enjoyed this video anyway. Hopefully it's been helpful to you, and hopefully it's been easy enough to follow along at home. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember to give this video a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one.